Sometimes in childhood, children can experience neglect, and prior to the 1600s, feral and wild children's stories were usually myths and legends. And over the years, more and more cases popped up about people who were neglected and abandoned and raised by animals. Welcome back to FTD News. My name is LEROY Kenton, and in this episode, you're gonna meet 5 people, girls and boys, who were raised by animals such as dogs and other animals. So make sure to watch until the end so you don't miss any of these unbelievable cases. Oksana Malaya comes in at number 5. She's from Ukraine and she was born on November 4th, 1983, and she was extremely neglected by her parents. Finding herself locked outside of her house when she was just 3 years old, she crawled to a nearby dog kennel to stay warm, and her parents apparently didn't even notice that she was gone, and Oksana continued to stay in the kennel with the dogs. What was surprising is that over 5 years went by with her living with the dogs, and occasionally she would encounter other humans, and she even wandered into her parents' house on certain occasions. According to Feral Children Project, Oksana quickly learned to live like her new dog family, and she ate raw meat, she walked on all fours, and she could even bark exactly like a dog. And when somebody finally contacted the police about Oksana and they came to investigate, she actually charged at them on all fours and started barking like a dog. She wasn't even able to walk upright, and doctors were worried that she lost the ability to speak like a human. Luckily though, she was taken to an orphanage and she was taught how to speak as well as walk. And now she lives on a farm caring for other animals. However, her mental function is of a 6-year-old. Next up, we have Marcos Rodriguez Pantoja. Marcos was reportedly sold to a hermetic goat herder at the age of 7, but soon after, he began to develop liking being by himself in the mountains. Having suffered years of being beaten from his stepmother, he enjoyed being by himself more in the mountains rather than human company, and he lived for 12 years in the wild with the wolves and other animals. And also, he spent a lot of time trying to integrate himself back into society after this whole thing. In Marcos's own words, he said, "The animals guided me as to what to eat. Whatever they ate, I ate. The wild boars ate tubers buried under the soil. They found them because they smelt them. When they were digging the soil looking for them, I threw a stone at them and they would run away, and then I would steal the tubers." He also developed a really special relationship with a family of wolves, and he even shared one point where the wolves brought some meat for their young ones, and he was so scared because he was hungry, he wanted to have the meat, and he was scared that the wolves were going to bite him, attack him, and turn on him. But no, what did they do? They offered him food, and he was a part of their pack. He also had a snake as a companion, and you know, when he was found, the scariest thing about his life that he said was actually being integrated back into society. So he struggled being in a confined apartment as well as sleeping on a bed, and then you know, the noises of the city really scared him because he was used to noises of the wild. Ning Chai D is up next. This is one of the most fascinating cases of feral children and involves Ning Chai D. As the story goes, she went missing in the jungles of India at the age of 4, and she miraculously showed up after 38 years in 2012. Locals had been hearing rumors and stories about a jungle girl for years, but of course, like most tales, they were just dismissed as that and weren't taken seriously. Now, she went missing in India close to where it borders Myanmar, and was later found in Myanmar, where she was living fully uncovered without any clothes in a cemetery. And you know, when they found her, surprisingly for living so much of her life in the jungle, she was very human-like and not as animal-like as similar feral children in this episode. Ivan Mishikov is up next, and he was born in the year 1992. Ivan Mishikov, he lived with the wolves between the ages of 4 and 6, and he ran away from home to escape his mother's alcoholic and abusive boyfriend, and that is when he joined the pack of dogs. Ivan, he gained the dogs' trust by giving them food, and in return they protected him, and over time Ivan became the leader of the pack, and he was taken by the police 3 times, and he actually ended up escaping with the help of the pack. And he was ultimately captured, however, and he started to learn language pretty well, very fast. And in 2019, he was 27 years old, and he said that he's grateful for the wolves that saved him and kept him warm in the winter, as well as he's grateful for the police that found him and the foster mom that raised him. And last up, there is Marina Chapman. Marina Chapman, she's an author and lives in England, and her book is an autobiography. And you know, she went to multiple publishers and they actually refused it because they thought that the story was a lie. Her story goes like this. Marina Marina was kidnapped as a kid, but then she was abandoned in the jungle of Colombia, and she was taken in by a group of capuchin monkeys, which are surprisingly known to accept human children into their groups. And the animals taught Marina how to catch birds and rabbits with her hands so that she could take care of herself. After 5 years, she was found by some hunters who ended up selling her to a brothel, and at that point she couldn't even speak like a human. She ran away from the brothel eventually, and she lived on the streets, and she became a slave to a mafia family. Eventually she managed to get to England and worked as a nanny, and that's where she met her future husband and they started a family. Now the story is so surprising that even scientists doubted it. However, Carlos Condi, who was a professor in Colombia, reported that he did tests and used photos to see how Marina would react, and they suggest that yeah, her story was actually true. Then they also studied her x-rays, and they found that her bones had Harris lines, and these lines indicate that she suffered severe malnutrition as a child. Alright guys, so those were 5 cases of people who were raised by dogs and other animals. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and also share your thoughts down below. Yeah, I know some of them sounded way too bizarre to be true. And if you enjoyed this one, here's a related episode for you. Just tap the annotation right here, and I can't wait to see you all in the next episode. My name is LEROY Kenton. Boom.